Thank you very much, Anthony. Hi, everybody. I know we're running late, and I guess you all wish you were somewhere like this, but unfortunately, we've still got a bit of work to do. So we're going to talk about a case study this afternoon of iSpec at DP World, who's been using it since 2006. And they were just about at that time to take over P&O and go through a period of rapid expansion. And they needed a better way of managing their strategic projects. And we all know the types of problems that occur. We have project delays. The major ones are project delays, delivery of incorrect equipment or mistakes being made in the design or the build. And then finally, contract disputes. These are the three major problems. So what we did was we had a look at where these originate, what the causes are, the main causes for these three issues. First of all, we often found that people were sending out the wrong specifications or agreements to the vendors. People also making unauthorized changes where engineering folks would make changes perhaps to the terms and conditions, which really was legal's job and so on. So that was the one thing. The other thing was speed. Sending documents back and forth wastes a lot of time. So I send the spec to somebody to double check something. I send it to my hoist specialist to check and so on. And sending these documents around wastes time and versions get mixed up. And then access to information. When we manage these large projects, there are thousands of emails and attachments that go back and forth. How do I find the one I need 6 months into a project? So this is what we had to tackle, and we thought we could solve the problem. So the first thing we did was we said, we need a single point of truth somewhere in the cloud, so that it doesn't matter which phase of the project you're in, whether you're developing the project, whether you're putting it out to tender, or whether you're monitoring the delivery of that project, there should only be one data source and a single point of truth for all stakeholders, so that you never had outdated information on anybody's PC. It was all in the cloud, and that was the only document you had access to. The first thing we also, or the next thing we did was we decided, because a lot of these projects are repetitive in certain ways, we needed a master library of standards. And so we said we would create standard templates for different types of projects. So QCs, RTGs, mobile equipment.
Pieter, can I interrupt? You've got the wrong screen. I can't see the presentation. I don't know what you've got up there, but it's not your presentation.
Sorry, how is that possible? It says it's sharing it. This is very strange.
You shared the actual the file screen. You need to unshare it and then share back again your presentation.
That's so strange. It shows. Sorry. Okay, let's just go back here and try that again.
Or you can share your whole screen.
Well, that's what I thought I did. It's not giving me that as an option. This is so strange. It worked yesterday. Slides. Let's try this. No. I only have whiteboard or find the downloads. Hold on, let me start again. Sorry about that.
I can share your screen if you want, your presentation if you want.
That might help, but let me just remove, hold on. No, that isn't going to help. This is strange. What are you seeing now? You're seeing the Finder again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now, still the Finder.
Same.
That is so. And now, can you see my slideshow now?
Same. Finder.
Let me stop the share. Aha, here it's now become available. There we go. Sorry, folks. All right. So let me just continue where I left off, or just start, wait, one step before that. Can you see the slides now?
Yes. Yes.
Ah, fantastic. Sorry about that. I don't know why it wouldn't give me that selection. All right, so as I said, we want one data source and a single point of truth, no matter what phase of the project we're in, so that we can only access the current up-to-date information and we don't have versions flying around on people's PCs. All right. So the master library of standards, as we said, we create standard templates for different projects, whether it's equipment or civils or whatever. And again, only the correct version is ever available. So you don't have wrong versions or unauthorized changes. And one of the things we do there in these libraries, in these master templates, is we actually create documents that only certain sections are editable so that people can't change stuff that, according to our policy, should not be changed. The next thing we did was, everybody loves Google Docs, but we started doing this long before Google Docs, and of course we go quite a bit further, is to allow people to concurrently edit and approve the documents in the cloud. So you can have your engineering manager in Hong Kong and your hoist specialist or spreader specialist in Dubai, and they can work on the spec at the same time and see each other's changes. But we have these locked sections that reduce errors in checking. So certain things in the agreement, certain standards cannot be edited. And so if you want to check the documents before they go out, you don't need to check the sections that are locked because you know they couldn't be changed. So all stakeholders can now work on the documents concurrently, editing and approving sections as they go along. You don't have to wait for somebody to finish looking at a document before you can get at it. So if somebody starts preparing the tender and the specifications, by the time they're halfway through the document or a third of the way, somebody else can start at the top and start checking to see if what they've done is correct, if you need to do that. And all edits and changes and approvals are stored in a permanent audit trail with compare and rollback functionality. So if something goes wrong, you can go back and see who made the change, when they made it, etc. So we don't waste time anymore routing documents to various stakeholders, and we don't get any unauthorized changes. Now, most people evaluate tenders in the old way. Even if they have a portal, they typically email a bunch of Word documents and Excel spreadsheets to the suppliers. And the suppliers then create their own Word documents or fill some of them in and that and send it back. How do you compare this information, the various responses, if they're in different formats and use different layouts and so on? It's really tedious and time consuming. So what we did in iSpec is we said, we want to do this in a standardized way so that we can automatically compare vendor responses. And actually, the interesting thing, talking about AI, this was based on an AI product of ours, which we're not discussing today, but it's something different. So what you do is we create a document. Let's say in this case, the employer's requirement or specification. It's a live document that you view in your browser. You select the vendor whose response you want to see. And if you want to go and see some of what your gantry drive design is, you click on the gantry drive design, and down here, you see the specification that you sent to the supplier. Above that, you see the vendor or the supplier's submission in terms of what he can or can't do, including any attachments, and whether he can comply with it, or if it's a pricing document, the commercial submission, what each item will cost, etc. Over here, you can see who submitted that. So your audit trail says that Joe submitted that on the 12th of March at that time, and it was accepted by this person on that date and time. And you have a history. Every time a negotiation goes back and forth, which can be done online, it is stored in the audit trail so that you can see how different things were negotiated and how things changed over time. Now, probably the most important of the lot is clarifications and correspondence. If you open the messenger in iSpec, you will view all emails relating to the gantry drive and no other emails. And we know that sometimes with these key crane projects, by the time we're 8 or 10 months into this, there could be 12 to 14,000 emails relating to a project. Now, if you had to search through those in a drive or a folder on a server, or in your outbox or whatever, or your inbox, it's almost impossible to find the email you're looking for. iSpec uses your normal email system, but it links the emails to the relevant document and section that they relate to. And so it's very easy to go back and track and see who sent an email, who replied to that email, and all the information is there. So it's very quick to find information and to resolve any possible disputes that may arise. Now, the next step, of course, is when you want to start comparing vendor responses. And first of all, you might want to see, get a non-compliance report. You want to see which items the vendors can't comply on. So you literally, you select the report, and within 2 or 3 seconds, iSpec comes up and says the only document in our tender that has any non-compliant items is the form of contract, and only this vendor has one non-compliant item. And so, of course, you can go and view that. Let's say you want to look at the pricing comparison report. Instantly, you will have your total prices for the project over here. You can compare how that, you can see how that compares to the budget that you had, whether it's over or under your budget that you created for this. And again, you can drill down to see the detailed price items that make up this total cost. So your price of your equipment, cost of installation, training, spare parts, whatever, you can drill down. So all of these reports are available instantaneously. You don't have to copy and paste from spreadsheets or Word documents or anything like that. You just click on the button and it's there. And if you need, again, a clarification from the vendor, the same thing applies. You click on this little button here in the report, and you can send an email immediately requesting clarification of, say, the cost of installation or the training cost or the specification or whatever. And then you have on iSpec, when you log in, you actually have a dashboard that tells you what's going on in your business. So you can see the items, various items in the different phases they're under, where you're spending your money, who you're spending your money with, how many projects you have running, your total awards and so on. And here you have your outstanding tasks. iSpec literally every day tells you what you need to do on the different projects you have running. So you don't have to worry about checking that up. It will give you that. And on a daily basis, you will receive an email with a to-do list that tells you what you have to do. And for each project, whether you have to approve a budget or open the bids or score, say, the technical responses or whatever, it's all automated in the system. If you need to send some of this data to a senior manager who's too lazy or doesn't have access to iSpec, you can export any of these pie charts into different formats and email it to them, or into a spreadsheet for further calculations and manipulations. And you can also here filter the data by different business units or suppliers or categories and so on to get the data only for that specific group of items. There's, of course, a lot more, but let's keep it brief. You can do your project planning and tracking in iSpec. You can also export this to MS Project. You can do quality assurance with the mobile inspection application, which is built into iSpec, where somebody can go out and take pictures of project progress or items that are broken or whatever, and instantly, as they take those pictures or report on issues, that is available at the manager on his desktop. He can get reports on outstanding items, overdue items, and various other issues. Of course, with the scoring, the evaluation, you can get all kinds of scoring reports and so on. And iSpec is built for continuous improvement. So we have in the master library our basic specifications, our templates, our standards and everything. And each time we use that to put out a tender, to go through the negotiation, the awarding and the delivery phases, every time we learn something, for example, let's say during negotiation, we realize that each time we put out there certain terms and conditions that no supplier will agree to. We need to stop wasting time. So we take that feedback and put it back into our master template so that next time we start at a point closer to what we know we can achieve, or what we generally achieve and we don't waste time negotiating the same thing over and over and getting the same result. Remember what Einstein said about insanity. Right, and then finally, we need to make sure that the access to all our data is controlled. So based on your role in a project, you can edit, view, or approve only certain information and perform certain functions so that you don't give people access to data they shouldn't have. However, the system does allow full transparency and a complete audit trail for auditors and senior management. So everything is there, literally almost every button click that occurs in the system, every document that's opened, you can see who opened it, when they opened it, did they edit it, who approved that change, etc. It's all there. So no more unauthorized changes or viewing of sensitive data. So basically what we achieved there was a seamless, fully integrated collaborative process from concept through to final handover. With a comprehensive contextual audit trail, making it easy to find those emails and those attachments and things, and allowing full transparency. So let's see what this meant for DP World. They've been using it for 17 years. And basically, at head office, they have a team of 3 managing over 100 global category 1 and 2 projects for their terminals worldwide. This gives them centralized control, but with global access. So the terminals, everybody can access the data, contribute their part of the project, but decisions can be made either decentralized or centralized. In their case, it's centralized decision-making. So the local requirements are entered into a template for each tender at each port, because they have basically, they have certain different requirements, but we still try and standardize in terms of the way we do things. And the final control and approval comes from head office and other stakeholders like financiers and so forth. Now, the benefits of this approach is standardization, better leverage with vendors, as John was saying with the Trent Marketplace as well, and less distraction at the ports, because the ports give in their requirements for their new equipment, but head office, the team there, they know what the company standards are and how to handle vendors, and they do kind of the day-to-day management of the project. So this resulted in a tremendous reduction of amendments and disputes. The reason being that the vendor has to go to every clause in every document and say that they agree to that, they comply. And initially there were a lot of things where vendors would say, yeah, we comply with all your requirements. And then once you've signed the contract, they say, oh, well, you know, we never saw that in the document. We didn't see this clause and we have to renegotiate. What iSpec does, it forces them to say whether they comply at each section. And if they say they didn't see it, you can actually go in the audit trail and say, John read that on this date and time and said that he complies. So vendors start learning not to try and circumvent these specs and things after contract awarding. Also, by feeding back and having standard documents and using them and reusing them and improving them constantly, you reduce the ambiguity in terms of we don't agree with your interpretation or we never saw that. You're constantly improving on that, so every subsequent project becomes better and more efficient. What we did find was that, and John can talk about this too, is that initially, especially the vendors realizing that they have to say that they comply and read these documents carefully because they're going to be held to it, more time was spent clarifying issues and negotiating before contract awarding, because they realized they couldn't do it after contract awarding because we knew who said they complied. But as they go on and the more projects are done, less and less of this is necessary as time goes on, because the vendor sees that these things become so standard and it always looks the same and feels the same, and so things progress much faster. It also resulted in a reduction of amendments and design reviews for the same reasons. And of course, you have this audit trail, which makes everything transparent, and there are no more arguments because you don't have to search for those emails and things. You go to the drive design or the hoist design, you click on it, and there all the discussions are. So finally, let's just look at before and after ICAT. So they were using Word, PDF, and Excel and all that. it's difficult to maintain templates and version control. It's very easy to send out an email, but when it comes back, the vendor response, it's very difficult to evaluate and compare. And then you've got to finalize the contracts and do all the amendments and manage everything. With iSpec, there's a one-time effort. We import the templates, we do it for you, or we use, Trent has fantastic templates that they've designed for Cat 1 and Cat 2 equipment. It's easy to maintain and control. You spend a bit of effort up front, but you save a ton of effort later on. And,
Peter,
yes.
we're running out of time.
Okay, I'm done basically. So that's it. And thanks. Any questions?